Run Junkies, do you ever wonder how much is too much racing? Or do you sign up for a bunch of races because you really like those finishers medals? Do you ask your Facebook groups, should I sign up for X race? And the almost unanimous answer is, well, yes, absolutely, with only a couple of people voicing dissent. So how much is too much racing, and is that even a thing? It actually can be a thing. Today's video was inspired by a couple of you asking how to schedule your races from race to race and throughout the year. How much time do you need in between races? Now, I realized as I was getting into the meat of answering that question, I had to address the idea of over racing or frequent racing first. If we overcommit to running in too many races, we may not only be missing out on reaching our goals and achieving our potential, but we might also cause ourselves injury. So how much is too much racing? Well, it depends on your definition of race. Racing for some of us might be paying for a bib, towing the start line, and just running that race with a nice, easy effort for the fun of it. Runners that do this might go as frequently as every weekend. Then there are those runners like myself who treat races as targets to hit. Their approach to running in races is to treat that race as a hard effort. We put a lot of time and mental energy into that one day as opposed to frequently racing throughout the year. Now, yes, there is a whole gray area in there, but I wanted to give you an idea of the two extremes. And let me be clear, no one's approach to running in races is wrong. The point I'm trying to make is that there is quality versus quantity, and it can be argued that we can't have both. So first, let's address quantity or frequent racing. The way I think of quantity is that you are racing frequently enough that you aren't allowing for recovery time in between those races. But it may not matter much because when you toe the line for a race, you aren't putting forth a super hard effort. If I wanted to, I could go out and run a 10K every single weekend if I used that effort as my easy training pace. The idea is that a schedule that is packed full of races doesn't allow enough time in between for the hard efforts and dramatic improvements if you are looking for that kind of quality race experience. This, again, is not to say that running races frequently is a bad thing. In fact, if signing up for a bunch of races is the motivator to get you moving, then I say go for it if you are running those races at an easy pace. But now let's talk about quality of effort. Now, this may be that you're going for a PR in a specific distance, or you are training for a longer distance than you've trained for before, or even a multi-day event. We are taking a lot of time in between race efforts to recover from the first race, build back up to the next goal, taper properly for the next race, and then approach that next goal race specifically. Runners who take this approach to racing might have laser focus on that day because they've been training for weeks, even months, to reach that target on that day. That has been circled in red on their calendar for a long time. If I were to go into a 10K with the idea that I'm doing a hard race effort, this is very different from the training pace that I would use if I were doing a 10K every weekend. If I were to approach that weekly 10K and use my race effort, I would ultimately get hurt if I did that every single week. It's all about what you want to get out of your running and your racing. If you are looking to improve speed, form, strength, then frequent race pace efforts without adequate rest in between may not get you to the goals you want to reach. If you are looking to add to your bling collection, that is perfectly valid, and those frequent races should ideally be run at slow, easy paces. Racing hard efforts too frequently could lead to injury, and that is the bottom line and the thing that I would be most concerned about. So when I see that question out there, should I sign up for this race? I would respond with another question. Well, what do you want to get out of it? What are your goals? Do you want a quality effort? And if so, is that possible within the time frame you're giving yourself and your personal circumstances? On the flip side, is that the motivation to keep you moving? There is no wrong answer, but I think it's important to understand what your motivation for signing up, registering for a race really is. Once you start looking at the reasoning and the motivation behind signing up for those races, you will be able and much more prepared to answer that question for yourself. However you approach your races is up to you. Do what motivates and inspires you. There is no wrong answer. Allow yourself to find joy in the process, whatever that looks like. For more information, I've left links in the description below to a DizRuns podcast where he explains and gets into the meat of this conversation quite a bit more. He's very articulate about it. I highly recommend that podcast. And the Train Like a Mother Club podcast brings up this conversation frequently about how much is too much racing and how you should recover and plan for your next goals, how to set your goals. So I highly recommend just subscribe to that podcast and just start listening, because there isn't a lot of hard and fast science or research about how often we decide to register for a race. It depends on how we approach those races. But once we start looking at frequency, we start to follow that overtraining and potential injury issue. Next week, I'll tell you a little bit more about how to schedule your races in order to achieve quality goals. And my question for you today is this: how frequently do you enter races, and what is your typical effort when you do? But please leave your thoughts in the comments. If you like this video, please click on that subscribe button. If you want to know more about overtraining, click on this video right here. If you want to know more about the method behind your training plans madness, please click on this video right here. But that is it for me today, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Go find your awesome. Until next time, happy running.